به نام خدا سلام عرض می‌کنم بینندگان عزیز، سروران گرامی،
In the
خانم
name
ها
of
و
God. Hello, dear viewers, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all doing well. As usual, we'll start with a couplet. Then, based on that couplet, I'll share some notes I've written with you, and afterward, we'll dive into interpretations of the meanings behind the couplet. In the fifth couplet from the first book of the Masnavi, Rumi says, I have been restless among every gathering, pairing with both the troubled and the joyful. In this couplet, Rumi tells the story of the human soul's search, restless, untamed, always seeking meaning and immersing itself in every crowd. The restlessness isn't from weakness, but from abundance. Pain is awareness, the pain of someone who knows they've lost something but still doesn't know what it is or where to find it. They go to every gathering, sit with the downhearted and feel their wounds. They join the happy ones and test their smiles, but none of it brings true healing. Rumi says a person far from their true self takes on the color of every crowd they join, yet never finds peace in any of them. They cry with the suffering because they understand pain, and they sing along with the joyful because they seek hope. Still, neither others' sorrow nor their happiness quenches the thirst inside. This feeling of being lost doesn't mean you have no roots, it actually shows you're searching for them. In this verse, the crowd stands for a world full of variety, different roles, moods, and attachments. The human spirit moves through this mix, experiencing, complaining, and laughing until finally reaching the ocean, where hanging out with both the miserable and the happy shows that both are just shadows of the truth, not the truth itself. Rumi's lament is a cry of loneliness, a soul's homesickness from its original home. So this verse is an honest admission. I've traveled every path, lived through every state, but still feel like something's missing. And it's this feeling of something missing that keeps a person alive, pushing them forward and taking them away from the crowds. It passes through, hoping that one day it reaches a state that's neither sad nor happy, but calm. If you're interested in having this text, you can check out my Telegram channel, the link is up top, or watch the video below. There, I try to share a couplet of poetry every night along with these reflections for those who are into it. Now, let's get into what we can understand based on our own efforts about the insight that all humans have, to some extent, naturally. Let's see what we can grasp from what Rumi says in this. Poetry expresses this. Rumi says, I've cried out in every crowd. I've been with both the sick and the happy. The first point and opening line can give us this interpretation. Being around people doesn't mean true connection. Rumi says he's been with all kinds of groups, all kinds of people, every type of society. He's been close with them, hung out and joined in, but he never found real depth or genuine presence in any of them. He's basically saying his story is like someone who's been part of every different group, family, friends, close pals, but never truly felt a real connection. A buddy or coworker in our time is like this. We sit, we get up, we live, but it feels like our worlds are really different. Maybe you, watching this video right now, have felt this way too. Sometimes you have a worry, a missing piece, an inner desire. You want to heal that wound, calm that longing, quiet the shout inside you. Then you go to your friend, your family gathering, your coworkers, and you realize no one really gets what you're going through. They don't understand you, and that first sharp feeling inside just keeps coming back. This couplet of Rumi's is basically setting the stage for us to dive deeper into his perspective. What Rumi's saying is that no matter who I sat with, whatever group or community I mingled with, what was truly rare was that shared pain. Everyone had everything except that common pain. He tells me that even with the wicked I sat down and heard their pain, but their pain wasn't mine. Their pain was of a different kind. They had the pain of making a living. They had the pain of, having a wife and kids. They had the pain of not reaching their worldly desires. They had pain too. They had wounds too. But the nature of their wounds was different. Their kind of pain had a different meaning. They didn't see pain as truth or escape. When someone's going through a spiritual crisis and they notice everyone around them only talks about money problems, daily struggles, and material stuff, things that matter to them, and nobody really gets what this lost soul is going through, well, nobody can really soothe that person's wound. There's no connection, no shared meaning, no real understanding of that pain to offer any comfort. Only someone who has felt that exact wound can truly heal it, can bring real relief. Rumi. He's basically saying, Dad, my pain is a wound that no one can truly understand. I couldn't find anyone who shares this kind of pain with me. That's why when you look at Rumi's life story, you get why he becomes so connected with Shams. The whole point of Shams and Rumi is reaching that common language, that shared pain that not just anyone understands. Rumi's message is that whenever he sat with any group and left, he realized those joyful people don't really get the inner pain.
مسئله اصلی این نگاهه. مولانا میگه که با همه گروه‌ها، با همه آدم‌ها، با همه
They're caught up in their own happiness and pleasure. Those happy, worldly folks usually just don't have the capacity for it. It had nothing to do with those deep inner wounds of mine that crave meaning. Someone who, at the peak of a parent's success, only sees emptiness, meaninglessness, and suffers, like suffering from their own world. How could they possibly understand why I'm so confused, why I'm not calm, why I'm not feeling okay, why I keep feeling lost? Look, we're talking about Rumi here. You know, Rumi was a major figure, a scholar who in his time was considered a kind of divine master. People back then literally called him godly and treated him with that kind of reverence. It shows he wasn't just some ordinary guy. Back in the Seljuk period, if you look at the events during Rumi's life, you'll see that he was trusted by all the statesmen of the time. They'd come to him for advice. He was the people's trusted figure, well respected by everyone. In fact, everything that happened in Rumi's life was because of jealousy. Everyone wanted to get close to him. They saw something amazing in him. He healed their pain, lifted their spirits, and showed them the way. But the very person who's supposed to guide them ends up being lost himself. That's where the pain gets deep. A person who's supposed to lead, a person who... He shows the way himself, a person who tells you what to do and what not to do. He teaches the do's and don'ts of life. He has a platform to speak from. He gives sermons. There are schools, training centers, and places of learning. This person, among all the ministers, officials, supporters of governance, and all kinds of powers, is even seen by common folks as a kind of lord. Yet this same person says he's lost. It's like a heart specialist who himself has heart disease. He's freed so many people from this illness, operated on many, healed them, improved their conditions, and prescribed medicines. All right, what a great diagnosis. But the heart itself is in pain. It's searching for a healer, a doctor who can ease its own suffering. That's the story of Rumi. It's the story of such a person. So they end up alone. Rumi's words in that verse I shared captured the loneliness of an awakened person. The more aware people become, the lonelier their friends get. That's a rule. The more someone understands, the more they suffer, and the more alone they become. But that suffering is sacred, and that loneliness is deeply felt. As a person's awareness grows, the circle of those who truly understand them gets smaller, because others, they just don't get him. And that means he ends up more alone. That's the price of waking up. Being alone is the cost of that awakening that only a person like him can truly appreciate. A thinker, a wise person, a mentor, a teacher, someone cultured in a society that doesn't understand him, where people aren't on his level and don't share his concerns. In a shallow, crowd-driven world where people only care about flashy things, this person is definitely lonely. He's definitely isolated. Rumi in this verse seems to be criticizing the idea of blending in. He's reflecting on his own experience of trying to fit in with the crowd and criticizing it. Actually, it's like a wake-up call for me and you who are hearing this right now. A warning to pay attention to why you're following paths that don't really make you feel good. You're blending in with people whose direction might not even be right, but you're just going along with them on the surface. That's why you don't feel okay. You hang out with the wrong crowd, with people who seem happy, but still you don't feel fulfilled, because you haven't figured out who you're supposed to be with. You can't easily find the person you truly need to be around. How many times do we have to beg to find someone like Shams? Someone who, to be accepted, becomes part of the group's story and blends in with the crowd. Without even knowing whether this path is right or wrong, misleading or true, a person becomes themselves. And Rumi is subtly calling out people who blindly follow the crowd, who go along just to fit in without meaning. Look around in society. Many people make mistakes. They say, well, everyone else is doing it. Many choose the wrong path, knowing deep down it's wrong, but they justify it by saying, everyone's like this. Rumi is saying, if that's how you see things, if that's your worldview, you're just blending in with the crowd so you won't stand out or get exposed. So you fit in just to avoid being caught or judged. When they take you in, how can you even figure out what I'm missing? You haven't even found what you've lost yourself. Then when we dig into these layers, dissect and analyze them, we realize just how deep it goes. How Rumi says no one really understands him and feels lonely until a spark from someone who didn't even know him before suddenly becomes enchanted and obsessed with Shams in their very first conversation. That's where the story begins. Rumi's words in this poem express the longing to find a kindred soul. Friends, this verse seems like an intro to expressing the need for someone who truly understands your heart's secrets, not just some casual companion. This verse is basically calling out how people focus too much on surface-level stuff in their relationships. Rumi says that just being together isn't enough. What really matters is a shared understanding and a real connection between souls. It's a critique of us, people who have tons of relationships in this modern world where it's getting crazy. On social media, people from all over the world hang out, get married, pick up habits, become friends, travel, chat. They do all these things. But when you look deeper, you realize how out of sync they really are. There's no real spiritual connection between these people, but they hang out together, quoting and critiquing Rumi, reflecting on everyday human struggles. The bottom line is, with this verse, Rumi's sending a deep mystical message. Pain is a sign of awakening. That pain of loneliness, of feeling isolated, of being misunderstood. If that kind of pain is what's got me hooked, then it's the pain of waking up. I actually love that pain. It's what led me to Shams' sanctuary. Rumi's point is that being sorrowful in this way isn't weakness for someone like him, it's proof you're truly alive. A soul seeking sacred truth, someone who's afraid of life becoming ordinary, stuck in the daily grind, numb like so many of us these days. They're troubled by big questions. They see windows inside themselves opening to new horizons, searching for a light that can shine through all the dust and dirt, heal their core, lift them up, empower them, get them moving and make them feel alive again, leading them towards the source of salvation. That said, this doesn't mean everything I've said is necessarily accurate or true. It's just my incomplete understanding and perception. This is the best understanding I could offer. Thank you so much for your support. I hope to have the honor of your presence again in the future. Ladies and everyone, I entrust you all to the great God, wishing you the best, good health, and may God's gaze shine on the path of truth and honesty in your lives. Inshallah, may the stars of faith in your life always shine brightly. Sincerely, Amir Mehrdad Khosravi.